Welcome to the Wisconsin Wellness Podcast. I'm Lori Groh, your host, mental health therapist, and practice owner. Each month, we'll showcase a central theme and provide weekly practical hacks, inspiring interviews, and valuable advice from wellness professionals. Our aim is to help you streamline your wellness and mental health journey. So let's start the show. Hi, Phil. How are you doing today?
Hey, Lori, how you doing? I'm having a great day.
So, Phil, today I want to talk to you a little bit about gratitude. I think that's something much needed for everyone, and you know a lot about gratitude. So I would love to start out by hearing a little bit about what inspired you to write the book, Great Things Happen Every Day.
So what inspired me was I advertised this as the best thing that ever happened to me, and it was a heart attack, which sounds a little bit ironic. But when I was in my early 50s, I had a heart attack, no family history. I wasn't like most people. I could have stood to lose 5 or 10 pounds, but that was about it.
Yeah.
I didn't smoke, et cetera, but I had a heart attack. And what happened from there was the doctor said, you need to do a better job of managing your stress. And I hadn't even thought about it, honestly. And he said, I want you to promise me you're going to unplug 1 week out of every 3 months. And so I said, I will. And my wife was in the room with me, so that made it a binding contract.
Yes, of course.
After the recovery, I had the heart attack in August. It took me till about 1st of January to fully recover and get back to work. And come March, at the end of March, my wife said, we're going to take a week off. And I wasn't at the point where we could travel or anything, but I was at the point where we could take little day trips. On the first day I went to the zoo, and at the end of the day, I got on Facebook and I posted, hey, here were the great things that happened today. You know, we saw a baby cheetah, we got to see the gorillas at the zoo, picnic in the car, et cetera. And I got all kinds of likes.
Yeah.
And everybody, I really like hearing that. And of course, if you're on Facebook and you get likes, well, you have to keep doing it. It's almost a law, right? So the next day we went to the art museum. I put, here's the great things that happened today. And every day I got a lot of likes. And toward the end of the week, I said, I wonder how long I could keep doing this. Because next week I'm back to work and I wonder what would happen. And the answer is it's been over 9 years and I'm still doing it. Finding the great things that happen and putting them on Facebook.
Wow.
It doesn't happen every day. The book title is Great Things Happen Every Day. You may or may not feel like every single day putting them out on Facebook. But
Right.
in 2018, my wife said, hey, why don't you write a book? And so I wrote a book.
That's so cool.
It was such a fun little project. And in writing it, that lowered my stress too. But what I found out was by looking for what's great in life and recording it and having that gratitude practice, you lower your stress and you become a more positive person.
Yeah.
And your mental health is better and your physical health is better.
Yeah. Yep. There's something that happens in our nervous system when we are connecting to those positive things in our lives. It lowers our stress in that moment. We don't go into that space of fight or flight. We are able to pull from that multiple times a day. And for a lot of people, we're in a high stress society, right? Like that's how it is. But we can start to change it person by person, day by day, moment by moment. But those are those things that we can actually do in our day-to-day life that we have control over. You know, I would imagine that would have lowered your stress and also probably felt more connected to people around you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally did. It just made such a difference. I'm a bit of a geek and I'm geeking out about AI. I know you had somebody on your podcast recently that talked about finding love with AI or something like that. I totally geeked out about it. And what I did was recently, I took every post I've ever done on Facebook. It has a download tool. It took a long time. And I ran it through AI and I said, tell me by year, how many posts were positive and how many were negative? And let's do the ratio. Before the gratitude practice, I was about 4 to 1, which is fairly decent, positive, negative. Afterwards, any year, it was between 10 and 15 to 1.
Wow.
I just rewire your brain. And I tell people when I talk to them that you got to look for what's positive. And then once you start doing it, your brain automatically finds it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really cool. I like to do that too, getting some actual numbers and statistics on what's going well. And having that number also can solidify for us too. It's like another way to get feedback and, oh, this is working. But yeah, our brains are wired genetically to look at the negative. And so we have to almost aggressively put that effort into finding what's good. And that does change our brain. And we could probably geek out together on the scientific research on that too. But what really matters is how we actually feel when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
And experimenting with ourselves is one really great way to see what works for us. You know, there are some times if I'm working with a client that might have an actual resistance to that, looking for positives, right? Because of some internal belief about what that means, right? Like, oh, I don't want to be that person that's like, hey, everybody, today's great, you know, but figuring out something that could work might be just one. Maybe you're not necessarily putting it out there for now. You know, maybe it is this internal thing or asking other people to share what's good.
Yeah, that may not work for you to get on Facebook and put gratitude out there, but you can get a gratitude journal. And somebody said, well, what model of gratitude journal do you use? And I said, this, just write it down. It doesn't have, if you want to buy one that's specific to that with the prompts, more power to you. But I just write down what's positive.
Mm-hmm.
Write it down, type it up, whatever works.
Mm-hmm. Used to do that a lot with my kids. And it's really fun to look back at those things from when they were really little and the things that they were grateful for when they were 5 or 6, or even drawing some of those things. It is really a fun thing to do. And it sounds like that could be something too with looking at Facebook, as far as like have those like yearly reminders or memories. And again, it does build on itself.
Oh yeah. That now comes up. Pictures and the gratitude from last year and years ago. And it's cool. It just pops it up because, and this is another thing I talk with people about, there is so much negativity available in the world and on social media. And so I encourage people to get real aggressive about muting the negativity because there's enough stress in life that you don't need to take on the optional stuff. And Facebook will keep giving you what you read and what you look at. So I block out the negativity.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's a great thing to try to shape that, right? It's our virtual world to some extent, you know, whatever social media platforms you use. And it, again, how you're doing it is sort of forcing the algorithm to stay positive and blacking out when things aren't. And that is also what we can do in our lives, in our day-to-day lives, just in a different scale. If you're feeling like everything is bad around you, Facebook and social media stuff is probably going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that same way, that feedback loop just goes in that other direction.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. So I've got the 9 S's for successful stress management that I came up with. There's probably 100, but 9. Actually, 7 would have been more alliterative. But it's look for what's good in life. Find that gratitude. That's the first one. And then subtract all the optional bad things and negativity. And if you do that, you're 80% of the way there.
Mm-hmm. And with our interactions with people as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's Gottman that talks about 5 to 1 positive interactions that you need. But it's not just even in the day-to-day that they're saying that. It's actually within a conflict, which sounds pretty hard to do.
Right.
You know, but a good challenge. When I am working with couples, I do get to see that part too, where they might be having a conflict, but then there's like a little bit of a joke, little teasing, little like smile, comments like, most of the time you're great at this, or, those types of things, or I love you for this. This is, this is frustrating. Part of why I married you was this, but this is happening. That can also make a huge difference in how we're feeling and how we then again relate to other people.
Yeah. My wife had this exercise that she put our kids through when they were young, when they would be fighting. She said, all right, time out. You each need to say 5 nice things to the other one. And, they,
yeah.
And then they do it. And by the time they got to 5, that had totally de-escalated their little conflict. And a lot of times it was always the same. Well, I like your guitar. I like this.
Yeah.
But by the time they got to 5, they were like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I love that because I do that too. And I think it's one of the coolest things ever because even the ones that are rolling their eyes and like, you can see physically a shift.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they become attentive. And what are they going to say?
Right.
One of my favorite moments was one of my youngest sons, when I had asked his older brother to say those nice things to him. He said, okay, but please say something nice about my body. And we're like, what? It was so funny. He was 5 years old. And we're like, what? Where's he?
I love it.
But he was very directive. Like, this is the kind of positivity I need today. Not, I like your guitar.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit more about your book. So the heart attack inspired it, right? And when you started writing it, did you have a particular goal for yourself, goal for the reader in mind?
The goal for the reader was start looking at what's good in your life. Start looking for things you're grateful for. I think in the book I say, look, I'd love to start a great things positivity wave. What I did was I had about 3 years worth of great things posts. And so I copied a bunch of them down and then I put selected ones in. And then there's the backstory and I grouped them. So there's the section of family vacations, the section of holidays. I'm flaking on a few of the other ones. I know one is a section of dad jokes because I had so many dad jokes with my kids. And I tell people, hey, look, this is the dad jokes chapter. If that's not your thing, just move on to the next one. No problem. But come on, you got to laugh. And by the way, that is such a good stress. Not dad jokes per se, but just laughter is such a good stress break. And so that's how it became. And the subtitle is Finding Joy with Family, Friends, and Banana Milkshakes. And
I love it.
It's not great things are not great big things. Great things are that moment in the day that you can celebrate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and savor them.
Exactly.
Pay attention to them. And we tend not to be able to do that for a 5-minute period of time. Most of us, when we're in that moment of savoring, is a really short amount of time, but it's also extremely impactful, again, for our nervous system and how we're feeling. And again, creating as many of those moments reduces our overall stress because you're not in that flight or fight state over and over again, or what some of us experience is that all day long.
Right.
If we have some dips in it, then we're going to feel a lot better and our nervous system's going to rest a bit.
Yeah. You generate the positive hormones and it just takes a little bit of time. But a hug, going outside, just on a nice day, going outside. We've got 2 dogs. Dogs are stress lowering animals for the most part. Just pet your dog. Or if you're a cat person, pet the cat. That lowers your stress. Just little items, consistent execution of little items throughout the day helps.
Yeah. And it's our paying attention to those, really, ultimately.
Right.
Because we might miss those. And that's what it sounds like that message is, right? They're already there, those moments.
Right.
We just aren't necessarily pausing to see them and take them in.
Right.
Right. And then that again, same idea builds on itself, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So was it hard I know it sounded like it was maybe pretty quickly after your heart attack that you moved into the gratitude. But was that ever hard or difficult to put into practice?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had the heart attack in August and had to go through the recovery. And it was a small heart attack. I said, I don't ever want to have a medium heart attack if that's what small is.
Right.
So a couple of stents, and August through December was recovery and starting to get back to work. And yeah, there was the period of the poor little old me and why did this happen to me? And looking at someone who's smoking and overweight, doesn't have a heart attack, and why me? And the answer is, it was you. It doesn't matter why. You don't need to find out the why here. You had a heart attack. You need to recover. And going through the why me and pouting about it, I don't know if that's a necessary time, but pulling myself out of that and starting to look for what's positive is when the real recovery started.
Yeah.
And so getting back to work, was January, and then the gratitude started almost by accident at the end of March when we took that week. And I started feeling better. And the more I did it, the more it built on it. And we get that, like we've talked about before, the virtuous cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the taking breaks? How has that been?
So I've got, it's over on my table over there, a little cube that it's a timer. You turn it to 25 minutes and then there's a 5-minute. So you work for 25 minutes on something, you flip it to 5 minutes and it beeps and goes off. So you take a little break and you may or may not necessarily think about something positive, but maybe you just stretch out, walk. If I walk upstairs from the office, then the dogs will be there and voila, we've got a stress reduction break.
Right. And that's probably more doable than taking longer week-long breaks.
Right.
But are you still able to do that? Are you still able to put in?
Yes.
Tell me how you do that, because that sounds like that might be challenging as well.
So since this happened, I have retired from my IT job. And I'll be honest, I was blessed to have been there a long time and had 6 weeks vacation. So I could take a week 4 times a year. But I have since retired, and because I decided that working an IT job wasn't hard enough work, I decided to retire and become a keynote speaker and work more. But the good thing about what I've chosen to do, number one, I feel like it's a calling.
Yeah.
To get out there, to make people laugh. So last April, I did a keynote in Orlando. Well, we took a week. Didn't need a week for the keynote. Took a week to go down there, visit our niece and her family.
Yeah.
Spend some time on vacation. Before that, it was DC. Took a week with 2 of our 3 kids and my wife and I, and got to explore Washington, DC. So the career where I'm at now, where I'm speaking and helping people, also lends itself to taking a vacation.
Yeah.
And unplugging. Best time to do that is after the event, not before, because mentally, a lot of times I'm still at the event. And we also take vacations.
Yeah.
We just specifically block that time on the calendar and do it. So the week has helped. I don't know that everybody is in a position where they can do that.
Right.
I do believe that everybody is in a position where you can do another thing that I recommend. That's one of the best of the 9 S's is start your day off positively. So 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes, 3 things you're grateful for. And 1 per minute, and actually relive it. So if you're grateful for your dog, just relive that minute while you're petting the dog of when you first got him or her as a puppy. You really relive that. If you're grateful for one of your kids, again, I go back mentally to holding my son Kenny, our firstborn, realizing we made this.
Yeah.
And your brain literally goes back there and generates the same hormones it did what it did the first time. So you just relive it. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I am a huge believer in how you start your day is how you live your day. There's a lot of science behind that. So if you don't have a week, you've got 3 minutes.
Help is just a click away with Shoreside Therapy's free 15-minute consultation. At Shoreside Therapies, they offer personalized therapy services that combine evidence-based techniques with genuine care and understanding. They provide various solutions to make the therapy process more accessible, including virtual appointments and assistance with insurance benefits. Their team of licensed therapists is dedicated to helping you build resilience and confidence while navigating life's challenges. Join Shoreside Therapies on your journey to finding inner peace and happiness. Go to shoresidetherapies.com for a free 15-minute consultation and discover the benefits of counseling. At Shoreside Therapies, again, shoresidetherapies.com, and schedule your free consultation right online.
Yeah, Phil, a couple of things with that. There is opportunities for people when they do have vacation, right? When they're in a position to take that vacation. But even then, I know a lot of individuals that might have it through their work, but don't take it or aren't actually feeling like they're in a position to take it, because then they're going to be even further behind. What we sometimes don't really recognize is that we become less and less efficient as well when we're in that heightened state of stress. We're not necessarily fully engaged with what we are doing. We are reacting to the moment in a state of maybe panic or fear or anxiety versus, taking that break like you do every 25 minutes, right? We're then recentering ourselves, kind of clearing our head for making tough decisions. So I do think that part's really important. Like you said, not everybody has that, but it's also true that people that do tend not to take full advantage of that as well.
100%.
Yeah.
And I am the before and after case for that, because I would just plow through it and work hard, and the energy levels going down, and I just kept going and going. And I found after the heart attack and the recovery that I was getting more done in less time because I was taking the breaks. And when I went back to it, my brain was 100% on task. And it was a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. We tend to talk about this a lot in therapy, and that's that either you make that decision to take some time and some breaks for you and for your health and for your body, or your body will make that decision for you, which is not ideal, right? Yeah.
No,
it's not ideal.
It is not.
Yeah. Yeah. Phil, could you talk more about the 9 S's?
Yeah. So it's essentially, it boils down to 2 or 3 things and then a bunch of supporting things you can do to do it. Number 1, seek the good. Number 2, subtract the bad. You can't eliminate all the bad, but you subtract what I call optional stress, or the bad things that you're exposing yourself to. And the third thing that is really big is starting your day off right. We talked a little bit about that. And I would add that Sean Aker did a study, and look at Sean Aker's TED Talk it touches on how you start your day. Number 1, it's hilarious. There's like 12 million views. Sean Aker, Bloomington, Indiana, TED Talk. But they did research, and they started half the participants off with negative news. They probably just turned on the news, right? 3 minutes. 3 minutes of negative news. The other half had 3 minutes of solution-focused news. First thing in the morning, the participants who had the negative news were 27% more likely to report having a bad day. So in 3 minutes, you can set yourself up to be 27% more likely to have a good day by what you do in the first 3 minutes of the day. That is start your day off right. And then the fourth one is share the love. Once you are doing these positive things, share them with people. And share with people, hey, I really appreciate you for this. Thank you for doing that. My wife had another great idea where at each meal between the 5 of us, one of us would have a scoop in front of us, and that was special scoop. And each person would share one thing about why that person was special and why I love you because. And it was rotating. It was every dinner. And you look forward to getting the special scoop and hearing what the rest of the family loved about you. I also look forward to telling each of my wife or each of our sons what I found special about them.
Right. And it doesn't cost anything.
Doesn't cost a thing. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you clearly use humor, right? And play. Was that something that was always there for you? Were you always a playful kid growing up, playful guy growing up, or did that take a bit?
No, I've got the detention slips in my past to prove that I was maybe a little too playful at times. I have put out on Facebook that I'll bet if you had asked my classmates who was most likely to be able to have rubber chickens as a tax write-off, you would have voted for me. So
Oh my God.
this is the regret rooster that here, I'll just if I take him along on the keynote circuit, and the idea is either it's the great negativity that he can represent, or it's, depending on the keynote, no regrets. And so you squeeze him and it can go for 45 seconds. It's just awful.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I use humor because people get the point. With little rubber chickens, it's such an easy way to reinforce the point. And what I had to do was learn how to use humor effectively, going back to the detention slips.
Yeah.
But we laugh. That releases some stress-lowering hormones. And also, after you laugh, you're more likely to have an open mind and be receptive to whatever the point that I want to make is. So,
right.
And if I couldn't use humor, I wouldn't be doing it.
Right. Right. So it wouldn't be very fun.
Yeah.
How many of those do you have, do you think?
I buy these little rubber chickens in boxes of 150.
Oh my God.
Because I hand them out, right? And then people send them to me. I don't have it in the room. I've got a crocheted rubber chicken that somebody made for me.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's my favorite thing. But I've got it locked in another room because the dogs, if they come in, it's irreplaceable, so they can't. And
right.
I love dogs, but man, a crocheted rubber chicken would be ideal for them to fight over. So
100%. 100%. Well, and speaking of humor and laughter, there is also a feeling that people have to have, which is a bit of like some safety and security in order to be in a playful mood. Do you ever find that part is difficult with the people around you to kind of allow for that? When you're doing speaking engagements, do you sometimes enter the room and you can kind of feel the energy is not in that playful spot?
Yes, and you have to adjust accordingly. The trick is I have a couple of humorous lines in my introduction that somebody else is reading. And that'll give me a real good read on the room without saying something funny and bombing myself on stage. If somebody else does it, it's not like they're bombing because it's like, well, Phil wrote it. And one of the real simple ones is I introduce myself as a best sort of selling author. And if they laugh at that, and the reason is because the book was released as a Kindle book and it was free and it went to number 1 on the bestseller list for Kindle books that were free about stress management. I think there might be another. So I blew the other 3 in the category out of the water. I was number 1.
It's amazing.
But it's not a best-selling book because I earned $0. So I call it best sort of selling, and I actually call it international best sort of selling because somebody in Canada downloaded a copy.
That counts. Yep, that counts.
When you say that, number 1, I'm setting myself up as I don't really want to I am a best-selling author. No, Stephen King is a best-selling author, right? But it also, if the audience all just sits there and don't laugh, I know, okay, you're going to need to tone down the humor. You're going to need to bring them along.
Right.
Frequently, I open conferences and it's Monday morning first thing and everybody flew in on Sunday. So the energy might be a little bit low, but you can get a read on that. And then you kind of slowly bring them up. I've got that hour to do it. What you don't do is go up there and go, hey, when they have already given you the clues that we're not quite ready for that yet.
Right.
The other thing I do is as long as it's going to be easy, and I never had a problem with this yet, is I start with a minute of my sons are musicians, as I mentioned, and one of them recorded the William Tell Overture heavy metal version for 1 minute. And I've got some pictures that come up and I toss rubber chickens to the audience.
Oh my God.
Inevitably, I go to a couple tables ahead of time to look. Are you willing to catch a rubber chicken if I throw it to you? And not act like, oh God, I'm under heavy fire. And so inevitably, when they see a couple people, then everybody's like, yeah, I want a rubber chicken. Who doesn't want a rubber chicken? I don't care if you give it to your dogs, your kids, whatever. It's fun. So that gets them going too. But again, no matter what we do, and I also do the chicken dance in my keynotes, that's toward the end. You're going to have a couple people, and it's in the video a couple times where they were just sitting there going, I'm not going to do the chicken dance.
Right.
And so, yes, that was a really long answer to a really short question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, but I absolutely love that because it's giving me an incredible visual of what it's like to be in the room with you, of how fun that would be. And, when people are kind of realizing that it's okay, that shifts that energy too. So I do like that you ask a couple people, can you grab it? Can you try to catch it? Can you put in that? Because just like when you're doing that, right? Like at weddings or something, right? Not everybody wants to go up. Some people may be feeling a little too cool or whatever you're feeling in that moment. But then the energy happens.
There's a video somewhere about some guy who's dancing, and there's a whole group of people, and they're all sitting there.
Yeah.
And then a couple people start, and then 3, and eventually the whole area is dancing. So that's it. You get the momentum going, and you have people that suddenly it becomes uncool to not be doing the chicken dance and to not be participating. And once you get up and do it, everybody loves it.
Right.
Life is too short to not have fun and not laugh.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. And when you start doing it, you start to notice how you feel in it. And that, again, you're shifting out of that stress, physical feeling, which is huge.
Yes.
So, Phil, it's been so awesome talking with you. I really enjoyed it. And I'm curious, since one of the things you do every day is talk about what you're grateful for. Curious, so far today, it might be a little early, but anything that you're grateful for so far today?
This.
Yeah, same.
So tomorrow when I do that I know it's great things that happened yesterday. I do it first thing in the morning. So tomorrow, right now, it's first thing in the morning, I went to the YMCA and swam. Always grateful for that. Got to have, my wife and I had coffee and breakfast, and then this podcast and talking to you and just sharing a few laughs. So right there, we're at 3 already.
Yeah.
And it's not even lunchtime.
Yeah, it's early yet. Well, I'm definitely grateful for talking with you, Phil. It's amazing that you're doing this and how many people that you impact when you're in the room with people, right? Like you're shifting how they're feeling in that moment, and that can change them from then on out because they're looking for those moments. And what a great thing to be leaving with the groups of people you're talking with. It's really impactful. So I'm going to put in the show notes, the links of your book and also the TED Talk you were talking about. And so anyone that wants to, I'm assuming that you're open to do speaking engagements.
100%.
Awesome.
Awesome. The website will be in there. Yeah. Speaking engagements. I work with small groups. I spoke with a group last Friday. It was so much fun. Everybody got a rubber chicken and they all were honking the rubber chickens while we were talking. And it was a group of leaders. And I think that's the last point I will say. We're all leaders, number one. The best thing you can do to lower the stress of your team, your family, et cetera, is model the behavior.
Yeah.
You lower your own stress, and that's going to help them.
100%. Well said. All right. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Lori. It's been great.
Thank you for joining us today on the Wisconsin Wellness Podcast. Remember, your well-being is a priority, and we're here to help support you every step of the way. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring content on health and wellness. You can also join our Facebook group to connect with Wisconsin wellness providers by clicking the link in our show notes. Take care of yourself and remember that your well-being is a journey, not a destination. We look forward to you joining us again next time on the Wisconsin Wellness Podcast. Until then, stay well and stay inspired.